Thank you so much, Mr. McDonald, for joining
Please
our
call me
program.
Bob, Christina.
Okay, Bob, for joining our program today. So to begin with, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, really briefly?
Well, I'm Bob McDonald. I was born in Gary, Indiana in 1953. I grew up in the suburb of Chicago. As a young child in 6th grade, I decided I wanted to go to West Point.
Wow.
I went to West Point, graduated, studied engineering. When I graduated, I joined the Army. I was an airborne ranger in the military. I went to the 82nd Airborne Division. And during that time, I got an MBA at night and on the weekends from the University of Utah. And in 1980, when my military commitment expired, I joined the Procter & Gamble company. I've been with the company now for nearly 31 years. I've lived all over the world. 15 years outside the United States, 15 years inside the United States. And I'm now the chairman and president, chief executive officer of the company.
Yeah, so so you spent quite a bit part of your career in Northeastern Asia, especially Philippines, Japan, and Korea.
I lived in Philippines for 4 years. I lived in Japan for 6 years.
Wow.
But I traveled all over Asia during that time.
So how is doing business with people in Asia different from doing business in America? Do you have any interesting stories to share?
Well, every culture around the world is different. And our job as a consumer goods company with a purpose of touching and improving lives is about trying to understand why the culture is the way it is. The class I was talking to tonight, I was describing the fact that the Japanese culture is about respect and honor, and when you meet someone from Japan, you exchange meishis or business cards, and you see their titles so you know how deep to bow. And I was always wondering why that culture was that way. And one weekend, I was taking the Boy Scouts on a hike up Roko Mountain, and you look down and you see the tremendous population density of Japan. And you quickly realize why respect and dignity and honor is part of the culture. It's like taking half of the U.S. population, moving them to California and forcing them to live on the 10% that surrounds the state. So tremendous population density.
Yeah, it must be quite a different experience, I guess.
Well, it's always fun for us to try to figure out, because if we're trying to improve people's lives, you've got to figure out why the culture is the way it is. And you have to understand that every culture in the world is right and is the way it is for a reason.
Yeah, so you've talked about your purpose of the P&G, which is touching people's lives and improving their lives. And since you took office, you've also introduced this purpose-driven strategy of more consumers, more parts, and more completely for P&G. So especially you're trying to double the consumers to 5 billion.
Yes. Well, when I started, we were at 3.8 billion.
Okay.
We're now at 4.2 billion, and we'd like to get to 5 billion people in the world by 2015.
So how do you plan to achieve that goal?
Well, one of the ways we do it is we expand our distribution deeper into rural areas where we're not reaching all of the people in the world right now. Another way we do it is by introducing more categories in more countries. We talk about our purposes for our growth strategy being improving the lives of more consumers in more parts of the world more completely. More consumers is about a vertical portfolio of brands at all price tiers and all consumer benefit segments. More parts of the world is about getting all of our categories into every country. And more completely is about improving the products we already have and introducing new categories that we're not in today. If we do that, and if we extend our distribution, we'll get to the 5 billion people.
Nice. So you've quoted recently that you are worried about the U.S. consumer market. So why is that, and what do you think of the consumer market going forward?
Well, I'm not worried about any specific market as much as I am worried about a lack of economic growth. We all benefit when the global economy grows. And I believe that we should have free trade so countries can trade freely. And I believe countries should work together to grow the global economy, because if the global economy grows, a lot of things take care of themselves. What I worry about is that governments worry about competing with each other. You know, the United States worries about China, China worries about Japan. Whereas I would love to see all the countries work together in order to grow the global economy so everyone can benefit.
Yeah, so you mentioned China, and P&G is actually the biggest consumer goods company in China. So what do you think of the currency issue between China and US?
Well, I don't think the currency issue is much of an issue, frankly. I mean, if the Chinese government has been appreciating the currency, but I don't think it's the issue on the balance of trade. We believe that you know, we should work with governments around the world to help them understand how to improve lives, and we like to partner with them to do that.
Nice. So last question, do you have any advice for college students in terms of like career or just like life in general?
Well, I think the most important thing is to figure out what your purpose is in life. I don't think your purpose is a position with a company. I hope it's bigger than that. But find out what your purpose is, have a dream, and then find ways to achieve that dream, and don't give up. I think there's nothing more important than living a life driven or inspired by a purpose, rather than simply meandering through life without direction. So think about what you want to do, talk it over with your loved ones, write it down, create a purpose.